Hello and welcome. I'm DDF Racer and today I'm getting schooled. Literally. If you've been following this channel for a while, you'll know that I tend to struggle when I get into front-wheel drive cars. No! Too wide! And that's because across sim racing, the majority of cars are rear-wheel drive. You've got your open-wheelers, your GT cars, your prototypes. They all have very distinct handling characteristics whereby when you apply too much power, the rear slides out and you've got to try and correct it, and that's something that gets wired into your brain pretty quickly. When you've been sim racing for a while, this kind of driving style becomes second nature, and it's actually incredibly satisfying to be able to catch a slide with a dab of oppo. The vast majority of touring cars, on the other hand, are front-wheel drive. When you get on the power in these things, you get completely the opposite reaction. So much understeer and the front of the car just washes out. If you're raised on rear-wheel drive like me, then this kind of just doesn't make sense. Everything you thought you knew goes out the window. Don't even get me started on lift-off oversteer.
Watching you coming up on the river, not clear, incident clear.
Now I am getting better, but to really master the art of front-wheel drive, I'm gonna need an expert. And thanks to the current minor global situation called a pandemic, I have such an expert. Joining me for today's video is Mike Epps, USF 2000 winner, BTCC racer, and current Ginetta competitor. Mike, welcome to the video, mate. Good to see you.
Hello, mate. Nice to see you. Thanks for getting up at 4:45 or 5 in the morning. It's quite cool to chat to people from the other side of the world.
Obviously, this whole pandemic thing has put us in this position in the first place. Obviously, being able to go sim racing and be on opposite sides of the world and still be on the track at the same time. But before we became confined to our sim rigs in this whole lockdown situation, you were a proper full-time racing driver, right?
You could say that it's something that isn't guaranteed every year that you do it, because it costs so much money to do, and raising the budget to do this sort of stuff in real life is hard, man, really hard. But I've been racing competitively for something like 14 years, I think now. It's been a long road. I've driven a lot of things around a lot of places in a lot of countries. Now I'm almost revisiting some of those tracks on the sim, which is really cool.
You drove in the BTCC in 2016, 2017 for the RCIB insurance racing team. I think it was the Toyota Aventus in 16 and the Volkswagen CC in 17. So
that's it.
For the purposes of this video, I think it's pretty safe to say you're familiar with front-wheel drive cars, right?
Yeah, I've driven a few. I drove a couple other touring cars as well. TCR, Clio Cup and VW Cup. So I've sampled the sort of spectrum, if you like, of club to professional front-wheel drive cars. And yeah, I've picked up a lot of things. So it'll be interesting to put this to the test today and see how it shows off.
When we talk about front-wheel drive, like from your experience, what would you say that the main handling characteristics of these cars are? What do you look out for when you step into one of these things?
I suppose it depends partly on the actual class of front-wheel drive car you're driving. So today we're in a thoroughbred touring car, essentially the full works really. So I'll explain what you'd feel when you jump into one of those. Because as some people like to say in motorsport, wrong-wheel drive. The fronts are obviously pulling you forward, stopping you, steering you. Those tyres are doing everything. The rears are hardly doing anything at all. You need to look after those front tyres as much as possible. So these cars will typically be set up very pointy and very on the nose all the time. And so when you first jump into one, to be honest, most drivers that have got into a touring car having done GT or some other rear-wheel drive standard sort of piece of machinery, they've just got out with like invisible question marks above their head, just hovering around, just literally, what the hell have I experienced? And obviously you have the usual sort of thing that someone will say about front wheel drive is you get power on understeer, they tend to wash out. But a touring car, a good one, is never ever set up like that. If you're going to have a spin or a crash in a modern day touring car, it's going to be with the rear out, not the front out.
So obviously you say people coming from GT cars to touring cars, they just have these big question marks above their head. Do you have that as well? Like, you know, when you go, especially in the sim racing world, from a rear wheel drive to a front wheel drive and a rear wheel drive again, do you find it takes a while to flick between the two? Or do you just have like a switch in your brain that you can turn on? You've
kind of got to try and section your driving styles out in your head as to what you do in different types of car. On top of that, you have each different sim program as well. So then you got a whole load of different things. It is like a folder system. When you get in a different car, you go, okay, how do I normally drive this? Right, I normally have these settings. I'm normally really hard in, really smooth with the wheel. And then you have, another car in another game, and it's like, no, this is just pull out, slam the wheel in. So yeah, it really is just a case of knowing what inputs you need for that car. The biggest thing today really for me, looking after your front tyres and keeping the front committed to the corner, so don't overcorrect or do anything that can cause the front to then lose its shift of momentum and change of direction, because typically that really is where the fastest touring car drivers tend to lie within their driving style, is they go in really hard with the front fully committed and down into the corner, hang the rear out just enough to get the car rotated and pointing to the exit. So if you go too far, the front skips and washes out and off you go.
So basically what you're saying is once you realise it's too late, there's nothing you can do about it, yeah?
Sort of. I mean, you can just plough the throttle and the front will come back. That's the great thing, is that you can always save a slide. But the problem is when the rear lets go in one of these cars, typically it's very rare you're ever going to get to the apex.
Yeah, yeah.
You'll probably be on the grass on the exit though.
Well, that sounds like my kind of driving style, Mike. So I think with that, it's probably time to hit the track. So obviously we've got our Factor 2 running in the background right now with the 2013 Honda BTCC car on standby at the Donington Grand Prix layout. Now, obviously we ran a few practice laps before. It's not the national layout.
At the end of the back straight before you... Oh, wait, we're on the GP. Okay, cool. There you go.
Well, I'll cut that bit out, don't worry.
That might be quite funny, to be fair.
So yeah, basically, here's the plan, mate. I'm going to go out, do a few laps while you watch and take a few notes. Try not to laugh too much. Then I'll come back to the pits for a debrief, and you can tell me where I could improve, and then you will get to go out on track, head out and do a few laps, and basically show me how it's done properly. I'll be taking notes, watching your driving, and see if I can put any of your knowledge to good use. Sound good?
Yeah, I mean, I am a coach by trade, so there's some pressure on me to do something good for your driving here, mate. So I'll do my best.
And of course, if anybody wants to check you out as a professional coach, they can go to
mikeepps.co.uk, and across all social media, it's at Epps Racer for everything: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, the lot. So I literally Twitch as well. So yeah, feel free to contact me on there via any sort of direct message system on any social media, because I'm always looking at them every day. So.
Awesome. Okay, well, I'll make sure I put some links up on the screen and in the video description. Any last words of advice before I head out on track?
As my dad always said, don't bend it.
Okay, let's get stuck in then. Okay then, so here we are to start the first flying lap here at Donington. We've got Mike Epps obviously in the corner of the screen about to give me some coaching tips as we approach the first corner here. Take it nice and gentle on these first few laps, just get the car bedded in. Obviously, you guys will know from the start of the video how terrible I am at front wheel drive, so I don't want to bin it on the first corner and make a fool of myself in front of a pro racing driver, so let's just keep hold of it, guys.
I wouldn't worry. You see the amount of times I've gone off on the sim, mate. I wouldn't worry too much. It looks all right so far, a little tentative, but as you say, first few laps, there's always going to be a few stabby movements and, let's say, unpredictable sort of areas on the track where you're just not in rhythm yet. You have to go around it a few times to start to feel when to put the wheel in, when to come off the brake.
Don't have to worry about the front tyres heating up too much, it's more the rears, right?
Yeah, exactly. You want to, well, to put it in a different context, you want some temp in the rears. It's actually quite hard to get rear temp. A little slide here or there at the rear, it will get some more temp into them, and then they should stick for a bit longer next time you go into a corner, you see. It's always the problem with a front wheel drive car, is actually keeping the rear tyres at the temperature that they operate at. There you go, there's a bit of wash there on the throttle.
Oh, big time. That torque steer just turned into understeer massive.
So that can actually be one thing, especially in a front wheel drive car, is just waiting a tiny bit longer to get the corner kind of done and finished off, so you can then pull the wheel straight and just fire it forward off the corner. You're putting both lateral and longitudinal load on those front tyres. If you're fully loading it up steering wise, and then you start putting load on it through the throttle as well, it's not gonna take it. It's gonna give somewhere. So it's a case of just trying to get that front end pointed in the right direction first, and then really accelerating out. So that's it, pulling the lock off and bring it out to the exit.
Yeah, like the sensation in the wheel is so strange to get used to driving rear-wheel drive all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't rotate on the throttle in quite the same way. You do get a bit of initial rotation. It sort of goes a bit numb, where you basically get what's known as torque steer, where the front wheels are essentially trying to pull the wheel further into a bit of steering angle, actually, but also they're they're wheel spinning slightly, so they end up trying to straighten up, and your steering wheel just sort of stays roughly where you've put it for a small amount of time. It's a really weird sensation, and you do get it in the real car as well.
That was a little bit of a better lap though, into the 38s.
Yeah, there we go. So just patience and then floor it, that's it.
You've really got to wait until you line up the exit, haven't you? You can't just power it on early, because it will just wash wide, like you said.
And the hardest thing is on lap 26 or whatever, when you're on soft tyres in race 3 at the rear end, it really does feel slow, like you are just waiting for the front to bite all the time. You look a bit snappy through that right every time so far. I wonder if it's you're almost turning in a bit quick and you're having to then pull the steering back out and back in again.
Like overreacting to it, basically.
Yeah, like you've turned in and the car's almost changed direction a bit quicker than you're expecting, so you've had to make some adjustments. I always have a bit of a theory, really. Sort the speed out first, then iron out the technique afterwards, really. But at the end of the day, the thing that makes a lap time quick is speed through the corner, isn't it? It's all very well just pootling around on the right lines, but if you're 5 miles an hour slower than someone else is, then it doesn't matter if you get the apex or not. That's better. That's it. And then there we are.
And then floor it. Try and run it wide, but not too wide.
Just a smidge early on throttle, yeah. Really want to go for that curve on the right there as well. So we'll try turning in a bit earlier for the old hairpin next time.
Oh, I missed that one completely. I think I got on the grass on the outside, and that just kind of put me off a little bit.
I think we might have. We may have. Sometimes you really put the car to the outside of the track, and you were facing quite a lot further left before you turned in. So you probably had like an extra 10 degrees of steering to actually do. And maybe we just ran out of front end immediately as a result. So it looks like those curbs, you can feel them through the wheel. Like you can see your wheel bouncing off the curbs. So you must have your force feedback running on high, mate.
I think if I do many more laps in this, I'll see smoke starting to come out of it.
One of the keys for me there to getting a quick lap, especially in this car, is getting that steering rate really nice and smooth. So you just put 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inch, 5 inch, you just gradually put that steering in, and that's it, just there. We just got on the throttle too early.
That's a perfect demonstration though, right?
Yeah,
it wasn't intentional.
Really nice entry, and just sat on the throttle a bit in the middle, that's all. Yeah, a little earlier in, but probably a little bit more brake as well.
Yeah.
2 or 3 things we need to do. We need to hold that brake into the corner a bit more. We need to be a little more patient on the throttle in the mid, and then we need to try and smoothen those corner entries out so that we're just loading the tyre incrementally, trying to get it all synced up and everything just at the right time. Does look like those fronts are starting to go as well.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. I'm looking at my display. I think the front left's down to 75% already.
Ooh, nice. That wouldn't last a race. That sounds like us at Thruxton in the summer. No, that was a hard day. 135 mile an hour through Church Corner, side by side with my teammate as well. 65 degrees centigrade inside the car, I think it was. Something like that.
Wow, that's
so yeah.
It's hotter than it ever gets here in Australia.
That day. Yeah. It was borderline unsafe actually. It's about as hot as I've ever felt in a car, I think. Occasionally England turns into a furnace. See, that was miles better. That you just pointed the car in, got the front, the nose if you like, pointed in towards the apex, and it's about doing that in the brake zone so you get the front kind of poised in. There we just stamped on and off the throttle a little bit in the middle of the corner, and it just washed the front out.
Yeah, after the praise you gave me in the final corner, I was like, right, I got this now, and I got all the confidence and just floored it again immediately.
Got all excited.
I did, yeah.
I think that's where these cars bite you, definitely, is they require your utmost all the time, because especially in a touring car race, it's so close. You get passed by one car, the next 5 will be on your heels ready, because as soon as your momentum is dropping back, that's it. Everyone sees you as a rat in the corner, and they're literally just going to pounce on you.
That's what we love about touring car racing, though, really, is because you've got 10 cars in a pack and anyone can take it, and it's kind of like bike racing or oval racing. You know, it's that close pack kind of style racing that people are drawn to touring cars for.
Yeah, exactly. And as soon as 2 cars start fighting, they lose so much time. They lose easily half a second a lap running alongside each other. So they lose so much traction on the exit by being just slightly wrong on a racing line, and heaps of speed down the straight. And if you're P1, P2 a second ahead of P3, P3 and you start scrapping 3 laps from the end, P3 is just as likely to have a shot for the win.
So do you guys have like a unspoken pact between yourselves? It's like, right, let's not battle till the final lap because we don't want to get caught up.
Yeah, I bloody wish, mate. I'm not even sure if I could afford to bribe them. I think they all just do what they want to do. There is a little bit of a body language thing when you're with other cars on the track. You can kind of tell whether they defend or move around much. And if you're eagle-eyed, you might be able to see through their rear screen. They hold their hand up and give a little point sign, point forward.
Oh, really?
Which means yeah, we do that, and it's just a quick sort of let's work together. Let's bump draft and push each other forward to catch the next car. That can also very often be seen as an insult to the car behind, or a bit of a sod you. And the driver behind might be thinking, "No, I'm not working with you. I'm going past, mate. I'm going through on my own. You can follow me if you want." If that person that you worked with in that race is 1 point ahead in the championship, you might be regretting not passing them, you see.
Yeah, and obviously the alternative of, giving the point when you're behind someone, I'm going for first kind of situation.
Yeah, that classic line.
So, John Cleland is sandwiched between the two BMWs. I'm going for first, says John Cleland.
I could not bring that one up, sorry.
No, that was a classic time, and there are so many classic moments from touring cars that that still hit the screens these days, and that shows just how entertaining it is. There's still plenty of that now. I mean, last year, an ex-teammate of mine, Jake Hill, he had a big scuff with Matt Neal, and Jake's shorter than me. He's like 5'7", 5'8", and Matt's obviously 7'9" or something. So Matt's pointing down at Jake, saying, "What you did was wrong," and it almost sort of resembles a father and his child. It's just,
yeah,
that made it on the screens, and that was all entertaining, and there was a load of debate over it on Twitter and everything else, but it provides a bit of soap opera, and that's what makes touring cars exciting in comparison to other sports, I'd say. Right, I'll go do some laps, shall I?
I think my best effort was a 38.6, which is probably about 4/10 off what I did in practice before the stream. So yeah, I think it's time for you to go out and show me how it's done, basically.
So first lap, I'll like you say, bed everything in, load everything nice and gently. Try not to scrub the tyres too much, make them slide, and just get them up to temperature steadily. The fronts are definitely up to temp now, so that's all good. I might just give it a little wiggle to get a bit of rear end movement, just to get the rears working.
Okay, well, here we go. Let's start the first flying lap of Mike Epps at Donington.
Go a little deeper, get it rotated so you can get that power down. Now, up to the first corner at Donny, you always use that extra bit of track across the pit exit to get a nice angle on the braking, get the car in. I've missed the apex slightly, but we can always sort that next time. It's all about rhythm, as we say, so I know what I did wrong there. Cascades, I'm pretty sure we can throw it in flat, get it all the way over, pointer at the apex, power it through just on the apex curb. Probably something that actually, now I've just driven it, I could have told you about, is just wait until you hit that apex curb on the right before you bury the throttle. Same here, just lean the car in on the brake, full throttle at the curb, bring it out. And here, you don't want to kill too much speed here. You want to keep the momentum going, because it's a really long corner. It's got a massive sort of long exit to it where you're still leaning on the front, so you really need to barrel some speed through there. And it's just getting it rotated here, nice and smooth.
It's looking good so far, mate.
Yep. Really shorten the line here, nice and tight to the curb, straighten it up for power. Same with the last hairpin as well, just go for a nice neat short line. Well, having said that, next time, I guess.
As always, next time.
We've stuck a 37.6 on the board to start with, so not bad. And again, into the left, hold it far to the left, get a good run, power it through. Picked the power up a bit earlier that time, and it kind of hooked the front in for me, and I've actually found about 2 temps there. There we go, gone in a bit deep. Shows you exactly what happened. But actually, I only lost about a tenth because I still carried a lot of speed through it.
I was going to say, that's the DDF line. What are you doing out there, Mike?
We've all got to spend time out there at some point. So. This is where I lost the time, so hopefully we can gain a lot here. There we go, 2.5 tenths. We'll stay on the right hand side before we get to the line, just to shorten that line very slightly. 37.2. It's quite possible our fronts are just beyond where they want to be now. So I'm going to have to be super duper accurate to get any more time out of it. A little bit earlier in. There we go. Just popped it into third at the apex just to see if I could get it to rotate a bit more. It's quite a common thing actually, especially on the sim. A bit more curve there and a tighter line. Really shorten the exit, which has given me another 10th. So we're 0.25 up now. If I didn't lock up and send it straight on at the chicane. And that's all my time gone now. Definitely. Typically hairpins and chicanes are where you can lose loads and loads of time by making an error. A high speed corner, if you make an error and lose 5 mile an hour corner speed, but you're already doing 140 mile an hour, the percentage of speed loss isn't much. At a hairpin where you're doing 30 mile an hour, if you lose 4 or 5 mile an hour corner speed, the percentage of loss is so much bigger. When I'm coaching people, I often focus mainly on tight corners and hairpins. Here I go, off track Epps, that's it.
Well, I mean, it's the old hairpin, so I guess that's kind of what you were saying.
Yeah, one small lock up at a hairpin is just crucial. You know, if you lock up at a hairpin in a Formula Renault or a Formula 3 car or something like that, and you run just one car width beyond the apex, you're probably travelling an extra 5 meters, you're going very slightly slower, you'll lose 2.5 tenths, just like that.
Yep.
And you'll never get those back. Whereas if you have a tiny little wiggle around a really quick corner and maybe you lose half a tenth, well, it's no drama. So yeah, I mean, when I'm coaching in real life, I'll often end up driving my driver's car at some point, you know, during a relaxed test session or test day or something. You know, I might be with a team and they might say, why don't you take it out and see what you think? And I say to my driver, I'm like, look, I'm not expecting to go quicker than you, especially if they're a competitive driver in their series. I'm there to make sure the car's right and give my input on what could be changed. It's not your car. You could easily bin your client's car off. I mean, that makes you look a lot worse than if you just come in a couple of attempts off with a good suggestion for the damper settings.
Yeah, would it be wrong of me to ask if that's ever happened?
Luckily not. I've had maybe a half spin or something in a Ginetta Junior, which anyone who's listening who's been in one of those will know they're an incredibly difficult car to drive, actually, because they have so much body roll and they're on road tyres. Challenging, shall we say, to drive. They move around a lot and they're very unpredictable. So I was with one of my drivers about a year and a bit ago, and suddenly I got this snap of oversteer and I went, oh, got it back. And my driver, typical of him, his name was Will. He was super chilled and was just like, yeah, that was a bit sideways, wasn't it? And we just carried on and got over it. But you know, he probably learnt a little bit from that, just seeing how it was gathered up. Maybe, I don't know. You know, it's all part of the learning process. Yeah, at the end of the day, the teacher's not necessarily going to be the best person in the room. So yeah, I'll do a quick sort of debrief lap, if you like. So yeah, exit curve. You can run that green, but not the grass. So try and get that throttle down really accurately. Here you can definitely take this left curb and try and keep the car way over here. Make sure you've turned it in by that point. If you turn it any later than that, you just won't get to the inside of the corner. Okay. It's just too late. And it's similar with this one as well. Look, just after that curb on the left, start to arc the car in and just ride up the curb on the inside. Here, I just look at the bollards where the curb is, so just fire the car at those. Chicane, I'd probably say, I'm sort of just counting to 1 after the start of the curb on the right. So I'm going, 1, handbrake, and just getting it in. And try and make that change of direction smooth. I noticed your wheel was a bit sort of fuzzy like this. So maybe you've got it a little bit sensitive, going one direction to another. You've got to make it smooth, or you'll just end up with the car sliding. And then the hairpin, last couple of hairpins, just get it really fired in at the curb, get it rotated and power it out, wheel straight and up to the line. When you turn the wheel, try to put the wheel in like that. So don't go like that. Just add an inch, add a bit more, and then load it into the corner. And then try and pull it straight as you get on the throttle. If you imagine the more you press your brake, the less you're allowed to steer. And the more you press your throttle, the less you're allowed to steer. So if you sync those movements up, does that make sense?
No,
I always find it's really hard to explain that, but
no, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
You can only give the car so much basically, and it's all going through the front tires. So if you turn, then there's only so much brake, only so much accelerate you can do. It all sounds good in theory.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a case of remembering it all. So only one way to find out whether that's actually going to work or not is, I guess, get out and track and give it a go.
yeah, mate.
Okay, so we're just sat here in the pits. Obviously, Mike has done his stint. His best lap of a 1:37.232 compared to my best lap of a 1:38.659. 1.4 seconds off the pace. Now, that is not entirely unexpected because, let's be honest, it's me and it's Mike, and he's a pro racing driver, and I wouldn't even call myself a pro sim racer. We've done it!
Well done, Dan. Great win. You deserved that today.
Yes!
Nice win, mate.
Woohoo! I would be very happy if I can get into the 1:37s. If I can get in the same second as Mike, I consider that a win. So let's head out on track and give it a go.
Driving a little softer in terms of your grip at the wheel. Perhaps you're a little bit too tense, and actually you just need to put little effort as actually possible into the wheel. Then you feel a lot more feedback through it, especially on a wheel like yours, which probably doesn't have the strongest of feedback signals. That's it.
Oh, that's so much better. Just being so smooth and just like not, just white knuckles basically.
Leaning it in each direction. Yeah, that's it. Same there as well, that you got loads of turning. It's a bit like if you're walking up a slippery hill or something like that. You wouldn't expect your shoes to grip on the grass if you just slammed them down on it, would you? You put your foot down, you gently put your weight on it, and then you press down and it grips. Make sure you get it in here nice and early and floor it. That's it. Get it in, that's it. A little bit of throttle and a bit too much.
Whoa!
Quicker though. There you go. So get it in and power. That's it.
Oh, it just
Good.
feels like it's coming together so easily now.
Now on the brakes, look in. That's it. Wait for it, go. That's it. Good. Perfect. That's it. Now on the brake. Get her in. Power. That's it. Full power. Good. That's it. In. Off that brake. Go.
Oh, I just locked it up ever so slightly going in then. Heard the tyres grab.
Then here, try to turn a little bit at the end of the brake zone. So just try to eke it towards the curb. There you go. Now sweep right and go. Super neat and tidy now. That's it. Now here, really get it stopped, turned, nice and tight, and go.
0.426 up at the second sector.
Gosh,
37s.
you're in. There you go. 7 tenths away, mate. Not bad. It'd be interesting to see an overlap of data, actually.
Yeah.
Gosh, way too late. There you go. That's exactly what I did on lap 3 as well. Better though, you look more consistent, much smoother.
That gradual turning is making such a huge difference, and something I'd never even thought of.
It's something that some sim racing platforms really don't teach drivers, which frustrates me. They teach you all the wrong habits. So when you do actually get an opportunity in a real car, you have to relearn it all. For me, it should be all trying to simulate. The word simulator is there for a reason, I think.
Yeah.
I think it should, there should maybe be a little more effort from some areas in the sim world to actually replicate real life. So if you find your Motec log file, ping it to me through Discord. Right, open log file, here we go. It does reveal quite a lot. I'll screenshot this now. Yeah, the long story short, looking at it, the last 2 corners, the last sector actually doesn't look too different.
Okay, this is what this video is all about, of course. Seeing exactly where people can improve, and not just myself, but anyone who is watching the video now who wants to improve their front-wheel drive racecraft. This is crunch time, basically. Now we get to have a look at the beautiful data.
The lovely squiggly coloured lines, yeah. Right, so from the top you've got time loss or time variance, and that's basically a live graph of how far you are behind or ahead of the lap. Below that we've got speed, throttle, brake, and then steering at the bottom. So the coloured traces are mine, the white traces are yours. Typically the best place to look is the top first, so you look at where the steepest losses are. There's an obvious one, I think, if you'd like to locate that for me. I'd like to get you involved here.
That's going to be the chicane, surely.
The chicane, there is a fair loss there, but actually you gain a lot back on the exit, so it's not so bad. The biggest one actually I would look at...
turn 5, I believe it's called here.
Yeah, it's called turn 5 on it. Yeah, let's use the top. You can see a sudden time loss from around about where we enter the corner. Suddenly it goes from being a tenth off to at the next corner nearly 4/10 off, and you always go to the next brake zone. You don't just go to the exit of the corner, you go to the next brake zone, because any difference there is caused by loss at the previous corner.
Okay.
So you might lose 2 tenths at the corner and then another tenth down the straight afterwards, and that's why it's so hard to sense as a driver when you actually lose time. You might think, oh, that was pretty good, the entry there, and you actually end up being slower. So I've just picked up the throttle a bit earlier, and you know how that throttle kind of hooks the car in, and that then pulls the car into the corner. The next section, you typically you don't tend to look too much at these little bumps, if you like, on the top graph, because that means you're losing time, but then you gain it all back. I've braked a bit later than you, but actually as a result I've lost a little bit of time on the exit. What the engineer would say is, well, you try braking a bit earlier and you try braking a bit later and try and meet in the middle. Yeah, for me it would say to me that, yeah, you could maybe brake a smidge later there, but try not to lose the exit that you get, because you actually get quite a good exit. Me being the touring car driver, I'm barreling in a little bit harder probably typically on my best lap. The last sector you don't really appear to lose much time, which is interesting, because you were saying to me that it feels like you lose loads at the last sector.
Yeah, that last sector feels horrible through the chicane and through the 2 hairpins. Like your brakes, for example, like when you're braking sharper and then coming off, whereas I'm holding the brakes a bit more by the looks of it there.
Yeah, the kind of bleed off the brake, as it were. That was something I was going to say that might relate to equipment a little bit more. Your brakes look quite hard to modulate and have a nice smooth bleed, or a nice smooth bleed off the brake pedal, because I've got a set of Housing valves, so I'm fairly high up in the market here.
Yeah, you got the load cells going on there, right? Yeah.
And load cell pedals are definitely the way to go if you want to do this professionally.
That's such an obvious graphical demonstration. Like I know people say you should get load cells, but that I'm having a moment right now, Mike. I'm like, look at that.
Yeah, you could sell equipment with a data analysis sheet, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Wow.
I think I already have, to be honest. I'm quite tempted to try and get a distributor's license over here, mate. But if we go even further down to steering, you'll probably see the same again. If you notice, there's a slightly rougher texture to all of your steering movements compared to mine.
Yeah, big
and
time.
It might just be that with your wheel, you're perhaps guessing half the way around. In terms of your tiny little incremental movements, these ones here, you're just soaring at the wheel in a very small sense, whereas I've got complete and utter feedback from the steering, so I can literally just adjust, and the only soaring movements you'll see me do are ones where I'm keeping the car facing in the direction I'm going, if that makes sense. Oversteer, obviously your yaw is inwards, if that makes sense. Your angle of the car is not facing the direction you're heading. You're sliding, probably scrubbing off speed, losing momentum.
I just want to bring your attention very closely to turn 10, the throttle trace. That is probably the most obvious demonstration of the difference in me and you, like in the entire thing. Like
it's almost like a button press. It's like your foot's recoiled and you've gone.
Which corner is that? Which corner is that again?
That's the long right onto the back straight before the chicane. So you know, the blind entry. So I'm reckoning you've gone in quite hot there and just floored it. But I can tell you that sort of throttle application in a real car would it'd have you wheel spinning, or you certainly wouldn't be too quick.
Yeah.
The reason that throttle application there is so much smoother than probably every other corner is because it takes a long time for the corner to open up, and it's also after a crest. So the car is like unloaded. The fronts are just not really there, not fully committed. So you have to creep onto the throttle. And this is all front wheel drive stuff. You go to rear wheel drive stuff, a load of these things get flipped on their head. Different, you know. Sudden you have throttle stabs to rotate the car instead, rather than gentle stabs and brake stabs to rotate the car like on these. So yeah, having this data to just bring up before you go out, you can look at it and go, oh yeah, I've got to do that. Right, sweet. Me and a few of the drivers, we do sometimes send data to each other like this. So you send me yours, I'll send you mine. We'll all have a look and figure out what the joint best between us is. And we'd often find a lot of time. And
then obviously you gave that data to Aidan Millwood, and he went and won against everybody.
I think even he will agree that was a fairly lucky race, but it was a pretty awesome experience for him, wasn't it? It was great to see him jumping in his rig like that over the line. Like, he was literally going mental, wasn't he?
Millwood, though, through the final corner, is going to win the reverse grid race in the Pro Cup. Bruno
think he's happy.
finishing in
We actually held a little virtual pub night every Saturday that we have, and I was in there with him, and he was definitely still celebrating.
He was going full Michael Schumacher at Suzuka, yeah?
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah. You know, bringing it back, obviously, yeah. Introducing data into sim racing is actually one of the best things I've ever done. In a sim, you don't have faulty sensors or anything like that. So you get a blue screen, then
Yes.
and then you just turn it off and go, don't walk away.
Yeah,
That's what I do.
you are speaking to someone who has had the very fair share of screen freezes and technical problems. I've been robbed of quite a few results due to VR malfunctions or whatever it is. So no, I get that. Oh no! You are kidding me.
Quite a lot of aero damage. You might need to come in and get it fixed.
I get that big time.
Yeah.
That session that we've just had, I really enjoyed that.
But I mean, this is, like I say, this is something that's probably quite well rehearsed by me. I've been doing this most of my life. So
Yeah.
particularly the last 3 to 4 years, and now I'm doing it on the rig. I would say there's definitely something here worth pursuing for a driver and a coach and any other drivers as well if they're looking to get into sim racing. I was online with Heikki Kovalainen yesterday, I think, or the day before, in a random F3 lobby on iRacing. So they're everywhere. There's just names everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, look at how many F1 drivers have taken to this and got involved and raced against fans, if you like, of theirs, and you actually end up on the same virtual track as them.
Yeah, it's amazing.
A couple of times I've put my drink down and just sat there like, is that's Max Verstappen? Jesus Christ. You know?
Now, very quickly before I wrap this video up, I can't make this video and not bring this up. I noticed you used to drive USF 2000 cars. Now, that is where my channel began. The very first videos that I ever started doing were R Factor 2 videos in the USF 2000.
Yeah, it's the same car, isn't it? It's a Van Diemen steel tube chassis with a Mazda MZR, as they called it, MZR, a Hewland 4-speed dog box, which is a proper, you know, my wrist still clicks because of it. It just clicked right now. I've got to admit, I've not driven it on this rig, so I'd have to then download it and get it again and make sure I've got it all set up. And I do remember saying to myself quite a few times, this is quite realistic. Like, there's certain elements to how you flick it and drive it around that do feel quite a lot like the car that I raced out there. You can really rag one of these things around the track.
Yeah.
It's really good fun. And around the street circuits, they were an absolute hack. You just sent them everywhere. You were always on the edge. You always had one wheel spinning. It's cool that you've done your sort of element of racing in them, and I've done mine in the real car.
Maybe sometime, if you've got some time, maybe we can organise it. We can do me and you starting at the back against the AI USF 2000s. Let's go. Let's see how many
That
places
could
we can
actually be
make
quite
up.
funny, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do like a kind of teamwork, spark to the front, like all sorts of crazy dives, and like we can team up on the AI. That'd be a good laugh, actually.
Pro versus Sim USF 2000 race. Obviously, everyone who's watching right now should basically just stop what they're doing and go and follow you on Twitter, on Twitch.
It's Epps Racer, so this might not show perfectly on the camera, but you might be able to see it. It's Epps Racer on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook, and I do have an Epps Racer profile on Twitch, but I haven't streamed yet. But hopefully when I start, I'll have a few people to say hello to on there and get a few streams up, because I would quite like to stream a few races on iRacing and R Factor and various other things I'm doing.
Alright, well, you heard it, guys. Go and follow Mike on Twitch, go and get ready for his racing, and he's awesome. He's helped me massively today with the data and the lap times, and obviously I'll put some links up on the screen. I'll put some links in the video description. Thanks to everybody watching right now as well. If you enjoyed it, if you found it useful as well, if you found it as useful as me, then obviously don't forget to leave the video a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. Any final words, Mike, before I sign off?
Good job, really. Like, genuinely good work. I think I could see, actually now you said it, a lot of USF 2000 sort of steering characteristics coming from you, so well done on converting those. And yeah, it looks like you maybe one day could be a pretty good virtual touring car driver.
Well, fingers crossed. I don't think it'll be anytime soon, but I'll keep trying and I'll watch those laps on repeat until I get it, mate. Thank you so much.
I'll have to teach you the old push to pass first, though. So
again, thank you so much. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, Mike.
cheers, see you later.